Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre el liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo del público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral. Que el cierre de brechas, que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement "quédate en casa", que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Hoy, esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to our member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, the Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Centers program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. A new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the C2, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo de lo público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral, que el cierre de brechas que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement quédate en casa, que es un viejo conocido del patriarcado, no sea que nos quedemos en casa siempre, y que entendamos que la inserción de la mitad de la población, de este talento humano que tiene una serie de ventajas competitivas, es necesario para el crecimiento económico. De manera que la CIM está colocando esta realidad, está colocando las necesidades de las mujeres y está haciendo unas recomendaciones de rutas para poder cumplir con el derecho al empoderamiento económico y con el crecimiento económico que requieren nuestras empobrecidas economías en tiempos de COVID.
Hoy, esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos, no podemos ser neutrales.
than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
The COVID-19 pandemic brought unprecedented challenges to our member states and the people we serve. In response, the OAS Secretariat for Integral Development adopted a three-pronged approach by 1. Adjusting our portfolio of existing projects, 2. Exploring new projects to meet emerging needs, and 3. Expanding multi-sectoral partnerships. The results achieved in 2020 demonstrate the resilience of our member states and the commitment of the OAS SETI to work with member states and partners towards our common goals in the development of our region. Our Network on Competitiveness launched the COVID-19 Ideas Accelerator, sharing 250 tools, health solutions, responses, and recovery plans. The Network for Labor Administration published a portfolio of responses from ministries of labor to COVID-19, sharing over 420 measures taken to protect workers, employment, and income. Likewise, the Inter-American Teacher Education Network series, Teaching STEM in Quarantine, provided 117,000 teachers with key tools to continue advancing STEM education during the pandemic. Through its network and platforms, the Inter-American Committee on Ports promoted international and national best practices, guidelines, protocols, and recommendations on COVID-19 safety measures and continuity of logistic operations. Initiatives such as the Education in Times of Change platform allowed us to meet urgent needs by offering timely tools on virtual education and a dedicated space for ministries to share strategies, actions, and solutions. Other programs such as the Row Fund stepped up, providing emergency grants to offset the challenges imposed on our students by the pandemic. SETI's partnerships are adding value to member states in the form of technical assistance, training, and access to tools and services. In partnership with leading private sector institutions, we offered micro, small, and medium enterprises access to online tools and training, increasing their visibility and participation in e-commerce, a key to their survival and growth in the pandemic and post-pandemic era. A new OAS SETI Facebook initiative provided 85,000 MSMEs across the region with capacity building opportunities and WhatsApp business tools to aid response, recovery, and resilience building. The Caribbean Small Business Development Centers program achieved real impact, supporting new businesses, expanding sales, and driving growth. a new network of Caribbean SPDCs will broaden the program's reach. The Inter-American Committee on Tourism, the CTUR, convened ministerial-level policy dialogue in an urgent response to the impact of the pandemic on the hard-hit tourism and hospitality sectors. Policymakers and experts discussed biosanitary protocols, travel and visa facilitation, among other critical areas for the sector's recovery. Partnering with the George Washington University and the U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs, we went ahead with the scheduled first Indigenous Tourism Forum of the Americas, pivoting to a virtual format and convening over 240 participants from indigenous communities, the private sector, and governments. SETI also integrated sustainable development practices in the COVID-19 response. The pandemic is a daily reminder of the links between water, health, sanitation, food security, and nutrition. We ensured the continuity of our water management projects in the Plata Basin and worked with governments and partners in the design of an investment portfolio valued at $90 million. Additionally, the Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas continued to share relevant best practices and responses to the pandemic on energy and air quality. These few examples indicate our collective impact. We cannot do this alone. It is now more urgent than ever to address the region's structural weaknesses, to recover from the health, economic, and social crises occasioned by the pandemic and prepare for future shocks. It is imperative that we work together as we risk losing recent development gains and seeing millions fall back into poverty. It is time for the region to redirect course and pursue a more sustainable, resilient, and equitable future for all. We are in this together.
But the resilience building agenda is too big for any one stakeholder to address acting alone, and simply bringing together stakeholders, whether at the national, subnational, regional, or global level, is not enough. Effective, focused, and sustained coordination among stakeholders is paramount to provide countries with integrated and comprehensive support.
The OAS, as a hemispheric forum and honest broker, must continue to facilitate this process while we work with member states towards the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Cooperation, collaboration, and partnerships that include all actors strengthen us, enabling us to be more than the sum of our parts. We can and we must work together. The future of our region depends on it.
Bueno, la CIM tiene una agenda enorme en el tema de democracia y de liderazgos. El primer ámbito tiene que ver con la gobernanza electoral, para que esta gobernanza electoral responda a las necesidades con las que fue creada, y es buscar los espacios de redistribución del poder. Después hay un programa interamericano sobre liderazgo de las mujeres, donde generamos conocimiento y también tenemos cursos de capacitación. Hay un poderoso curso que ha llegado a más de 1000 mujeres con más de 15 ediciones, que es para candidatas electorales, en las cuales conversamos con ellas, pero también nos ponemos en una agenda de solidaridad y articulación y alianzas entre las mujeres, a pesar de las múltiples diferencias ideológicas o de partidos políticos. También hablamos de los temas de violencia política, porque no es lo mismo llegar que quedarse, y la violencia política es una forma de ejercicio de disciplinar a las mujeres para que vuelvan al mundo de lo privado y enfrentar la violencia, hacer buenas investigaciones, buenas leyes que permitan sancionar la violencia política. Es parte de las aspiraciones de la CIM en este programa de liderazgo de las mujeres. La aspiración histórica de las mujeres es estar en el mundo del público, que nuestro trabajo sea remunerado y que tenga un reconocimiento. COVID ha puesto en evidencia una profundización de las brechas existentes para el logro de este objetivo. Estas brechas existentes ahora dan cuenta de que podríamos tener un rezago de más de 2 décadas en el mundo laboral. Que el cierre de brechas, que se previó que podía tardar 100 años en cerrarse, ahora se habla de 135 años para cerrar la brecha entre los hombres y las mujeres. Entonces, nuestro objetivo es que miren el derecho de las mujeres al empoderamiento económico, que el statement quédate en
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Rogamos a las delegaciones.
We ask the delegations to please take their seats so we can get started with today's session.
We ask all delegations kindly come to their places so we may start our session of this afternoon. Mr. Chairman, with 28 delegations in the Hall of the Americas, we have quorum to proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm honored to declare open this solemn session of the Permanent Council dedicated to paying tribute and bidding farewell to Luis Almagro, the Secretary General of the OAS. At the request of the Secretary General, we will switch items 3 and 4 in the item order of business contained under document CPOD 2550/25, which we consider adopted.
Senhor Luis Almagro,
Mr. Luis Almagro, Secretary General of the Organization of American States, permanent and alternate representatives of member states, Assistant Secretary General, permanent observers, Ms. Luisa Fernanda Marin, special guests, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we are here for a solemn occasion to pay tribute to Secretary General Luis Almagro, who certainly has left his mark on the history of this organization. As he concludes his mandate, it's fair and necessary for us to recognize what he has done, everything His Excellency has dedicated as he has guided the work of the General Secretariat over the last decade. Secretary General Luis Almagro has been at the helm of this organization during one of the most complex periods of our contemporary history. Since 2015, when he began his mandate, he has acted based on his deep conviction of the transformative strength of international cooperation. He has also led with passion on behalf of the values that we share by member states, such as democracy and human rights. Despite budgetary restrictions, which continue to beset the OAS, the Secretary General has worked tirelessly for the member states based on the 4 pillars of our strategy. He has done a lot with few resources. There is no lack of positive examples. Since I arrived at the OAS, just to give you a tangible example, I have borne witness to the strong support the Secretary General has displayed in supporting democracy in Guatemala. In the midst of such complexity, His Excellency has sought to respond with his convictions, working tirelessly to translate actions into shared achievements adopted by the states and in the OAS regulations. During the COVID-19 pandemic, his steadfast leadership was particularly crucial. He promoted inter-American cooperation and shed light on social gaps that were exacerbated by the health emergency, supporting member states in defending fundamental rights and reducing the social and economic impact of the pandemic. It was a difficult time during which his leadership was particularly important. Democracy, human rights, comprehensive development, and multidimensional security are priorities of the OAS. The motto of the Secretary General, that is, more rights for more people, reflects that priority. And it's much more than just a slogan. It's a guide that has translated into progress, particularly for the most vulnerable sectors of our populations. We also greatly value his respectful relationship and his collaboration with this permanent council, the essential political body of the OAS. Thanks to ongoing frank dialogue, we've been able to overcome the most urgent challenges of the hemispheric agenda. Running a multilateral organization such as this is no easy task. It's a responsibility that requires a vision and a true commitment to the collective well-being. Your Excellency, Mr. Secretary General, has demonstrated that commitment, taking decisions based on his judgment as the best way to turn each challenge into an opportunity and move forward toward a more fair, free, united region. Today, on behalf of the Permanent Council, we express our most sincere thanks to Secretary General Almagro, whose 10 years at the helm of the General Secretariat will go down in the annals of the OAS and the memory of each of us. On behalf of the OAS and the people of the hemisphere, we thank you for your dedication, and performance in seeking out the ideals that bring us all together here at the OAS. We would also like to pay sincere tribute to your family, whose quiet but constant support was a fundamental part of that. We know that behind every decision, every long day, every challenge faced, you benefited from the unconditional support of your loved ones, and we express to them our deepest gratitude for generously sharing your time with the organization while you were Secretary General over these many years on behalf of our hemisphere. As we conclude this stage and open a new chapter, we wish you most success professionally, and we wish you happiness and health. Thank you very much.
A seguir.
And now I am honored and delighted to give the floor to Ambassador Nestor Mendez, the Assistant Secretary General of the Organization of American States. Mr. Secretary General, I give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Ambassador Benoni Belli, Chair of the OAS Permanent Council and Permanent Representative of Brazil to the OAS, distinguished permanent representatives, alternates, and permanent observers, Secretary General, querido amigo Luis Almagro, y Señora Luisa Fernanda Marín, OAS personnel, special guests, good afternoon. Muy buenas tardes a todas y todos.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
And Luis Almagro is full of surprises. And even after 10 years of working together closely, he still manages to do that with his unique way of looking at events and the world panorama, and by his unpredictable perspective on things funny and serious. Perhaps I should illustrate this with an example. Un día estábamos en la oficina.
One day we were in the office, Luis and I, and we were talking about something serious. Issues related to the organization, the hemispheric panorama, maybe the wildfires we had to put out in the Americas, the things that took up most of our time. I'm not going to get too into detail here, but we began to talk about movies. And the name of that movie, Pulp Fiction, came out. Quentin Tarantino's movie, Pulp Fiction.
85, thereabouts. And all of a sudden, Louis stands up and he starts to recite. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper. And he kept going on, and he knew the full thing. It was amazing. Y después,
And then he sat down as if nothing had happened and we just kept talking. And I thought to myself, where was that from? How did you learn that?
too many times to count. That is the Luis Almagro I know. You know, the very serious and formidable comprehensive introduction by the distinguished chair, wrapped up, looked at carefully at what the SG has done from the professional perspective. But I wanted to tell you a little about Luis, the person. My dear friend, I don't know how to put into words a decade of friendship filled with historic milestones and a lifetime of memories. Before we were elected, Luis and I, we only spoke twice. Once was in an empty platform in Costa Rica. The first time we met and we had a conversation, but it was very light. We didn't get into much detail. It was just, how are you? Who are you? You know, what are you thinking? How is the campaign going? And after that, we spoke once the day before the elections, and that was it. But after that, we were elected and we assumed office. And then from very early, I realized that Luis is a man of conviction, a man that would stand on principle and reinvigorate our organization's reputation as a trailblazer and a staunch defender of human rights within the inter-American system. Luis Almagro no hace nada a medio.
Luis Almagro doesn't do anything halfway.
In or he is out. Whether he's defending a particular political position or on the offensive about something he feels very strongly about, or talking about football, you can always count on him that he's coming with everything. Incidentally, about football, hasta que conocí a Luis.
Until I met Luis, I had never met anyone who has such a photographic memory of soccer games. He remembers the players, the dates, the stadium, the end result. He even remembers the plays. And if you insist a little bit, he can even recite a replay of the sports announcer announcing the entire soccer game. And I never understood that. I mean, I like soccer, but not that much. And so I think that this shows a part of his character. He is a person who is either all in or not in at all.
Character of Luis Almagro. And then there is the other side to him. Luis, no one would dispute your warmth and welcoming personality, your contagious laugh, and astounding wit, with a disarming charm even on the most guarded persons. Although you sometimes claim that you prefer to withdraw from the limelight, your innate warmth resonates with all who encounter you. You have a naturally gregarious disposition, that enables your seamless maneuvering in diplomatic settings, connecting with each other and every individual in the room, no matter their status. And then there is that uncanny ability to pull out an unexpected card out of his sleeve, especially in private conversations about deeply consequential things. I have learned a lot from watching a true master at work. Despite your many accomplishments, however, you have remained a humble individual. Anyone that works here at the main building knows that you inconspicuously arrive and depart this building each day. No fanfare, no theatrics, just a modest knapsack on your shoulder and a smile waving hello and goodbye to everyone. This humility is also exemplified in your stewardship of this organization. Everyone knows you are a man of principles. This has been demonstrated throughout your political career and was heightened when you assumed the post of Secretary General. One of your first imperatives when you assumed your role was to ensure that the OAS was viewed as a principled organization that would lead by example. Your commitment to more rights for more people, as you coined it, has been exemplary. It has positioned our organization as a regional behemoth, a bastion for championing the rights of all of the peoples of the Americas. Your advocacy and defense of human rights have been shown in numerous ways, notably your strong positions on political matters occurring in our regions, which inevitably have brought you much admiration and sometimes just as much or more criticism. Yet, you remain relentless in your pursuit of ensuring inalienable rights redound to all citizens of our great hemisphere. The tenacity and perseverance which you possess were helpful tools that enabled you to steer our organization during the COVID-19 pandemic with masterful aplomb. I remember the early days of the pandemic when we would be constantly on the phone, and when I suggested, Luis, it is time that we bring in the experts, we should invite PAHO and IDB to the Permanent Council. And he said, you know what, you read my mind. This morning, I was talking to them about that. The pandemic, as you all will recall, was a most troubling time for our organization's personnel. It was a time filled with uncertainty and fear, and one in which our personnel needed careful and thoughtful guidance from its leadership. You skillfully rose to the occasion by staying grounded and calm in the face of heightened uncertainty. You were decisive in our leadership meeting, encouraging OAS executives to place the safety of OAS personnel at the forefront of everything we did, of all our action plans. You did not cower or retreat, rather you remained poised and forward-looking. This created a deep sense of unity and camaraderie between us and amongst our OAS executives, as we were all seeking clarity in this time of uncertainty. I also remember our long conversations when for months you and I were the only ones coming to the office once the authorities had relaxed the restrictions on movement. Solo él y yo no nos podíamos quedar en casa.
And so we came to the office, and for a long time we were the only two that were here.
This sustains momentum, but a great leader increases it. And you are indeed a great leader. Your versatility, your self-reliance, decisiveness, and dependability have benefited us inordinately, and our organization has grown exponentially with you at the helm. You will be missed, my friend. I will miss you. I wish you all the best, along with your wife, Luisa Fernanda, and your sons and daughters. Many blessings, my brother. Que te vaya súper bien.
We wish you the best.
Com a permissão das delegações, permite-nos.
With the permission of the delegations, please allow me to give the floor first to Sir Ranald Sanders, the permanent representative of Antigua and Barbuda and deacon of this council. Ambassador Sanders, I give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, colleagues, it is said that leadership does not show itself in comfort, but at times of adversity. For 10 years, Luis Almagro led this organization through storms, not still waters. I joined this organization 3 months after he assumed office. Since then, I have traveled a parallel path, close enough to see the burdens he carried, the winds he faced, and the resilience with which he moved the organization forward. He inherited an institution in deep distress, financially strained, morally challenged, and structurally fragmented. But he did not falter, and he did not flee. Instead, he became, as I once described, a professional beggar for the causes the OAS was mandated to serve. He raised funds where there were none. He implemented mandates others might have abandoned. But he did more than survive. He reshaped the role of Secretary General. Luis Almagro was the first to call for reparatory justice for the descendants of the enslaved. For my region of the world, that is not something we will easily forget. He demanded dignity for the indigenous peoples of our hemisphere. He elevated the rights of Afro-descendants and championed women's equality, not occasionally, but persistently. And these were not gestures. They were positive stands. And in them, he spoke not just for the weak and the vulnerable, but for the people across the Americas. He defended democracy decisively. Without his intervention, Guyana and Guatemala might not today be governed by the clear will of their peoples. In Haiti, despite the enormity of the crisis, he tried to keep the flame of engagement alive. In Belize and Guatemala, he sustained peace through quiet, steady diplomacy. And day by day, tweet by tweet, he lifted the profile of the OAS, giving it a voice far beyond this whole of the Americas. Yes, he was controversial. Yes, he was criticized. But when he spoke, it was not for vanity. It was for the values enshrined in our charter, values we must never treat as optional. Luis made the OAS visible again. That in itself is no small legacy. But today we do not only say farewell to a Secretary General. We say goodbye to a man, our colleague, our partner, our sometimes provocateur, and often our ally. He came forward in hard times in this organization. He stood when it would have been easier to sit and be silent. He chose principle, as Nestor Mendez said earlier, over popularity. And he gave this organization and this hemisphere the best of his ability. For that, I think we all owe him not only our respect, but our gratitude. Luis, I echo the sentiments of Nestor Mendez that you will be missed. Missed for your fire, missed for your fierce defense of justice, and missed above all for the humanity you brought to this role. More rights for more people is the enduring mantra for which you will be recalled over time. As you close this chapter, may you find fulfillment and pride, and may you carry it with courage. Many are called, few are chosen. You, Luis Almagro, were chosen. And our organization found resonance again because of that. So I thank you, my friend, and I urge you to go with our deep appreciation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
A seguir, ofereço.
I now give the floor to the delegations that would like to express observations.
Passo a palavra. Passo a palavra.
I give the floor to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Madam Ambassador.
Thank you, Chair. Excellencies, Secretary General Luis Almagro, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez, Mrs., and I'm going to call you Mrs. Luis Almagro, staff of the Secretariat. Our region of the Americas is vibrant and diverse in many respects. The Multilateral Forum of the Organization of American States mirrors in every respect this vibrancy and this diversity, often, though, with notes of dissonance. However, it is member states' ability to promote dialogue, seek rapprochement, and respect our diversity while leveraging our common interests and goals to arrive at consensus which, together, redound to the benefit of the people in this hemisphere. In this forum of international relations, there are individuals whose contributions will be inscribed in the annals of time. Luis Almagro Lemes is one of these individuals. His decade-long tenure as Secretary General of the Organization of American States has been marked by a deep commitment to the enduring principle of the promotion and protection of human rights, encapsulated in the mantra which he introduced, more rights for more people. And I will say it as His Excellency says it, más derechos para más gente.
More rights for more people.
More than a trite reiteration of one of the four foundational pillars of the Organization of American States. It may be seen as the interpretation of the raison d'etre of the OAS. Today, the delegation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines bids farewell to His Excellency Luis Almagro Lemes, the esteemed Secretary General of the Organization of American States. We express profound gratitude for his dedication to the work of the OAS and for his leadership. During his tenure, Secretary General Almagro has demonstrated his commitment to the development of the hemisphere and its peoples, and has guided the OAS through many of the region's challenges to human rights, democracy, and social justice. Under his leadership, the OAS has made progress in the promotion of peace, stability, and cooperation among member states. There might not always have been consensus on the approaches taken at times, but those are the dynamics of the multilateral arena. What is certain is that the CARICOM group here at the OAS is thankful for the advocacy of Secretary General Luis Almagro in the promotion of matters related to overcoming the specific vulnerabilities of our small developing states and building resilience for greater economic, environmental, and social development. As we celebrate Secretary General Luis Almagro Lemes' accomplishments, we extend our gratitude for his contributions to the organization and to the hemisphere. His legacy will inspire future generations to strive for greater equity. My delegation wishes him good health, good healthy beverages, and great success in his future undertakings. Thank you, Your Excellency, for your service and dedication to the hemisphere. Your leadership has made a positive difference in many lives, and your impact will be lasting. Je vous dis au revoir.
And I will take this opportunity to say farewell, not goodbye, but farewell.
Delegação da Costa Rica.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Costa Rica. Mr. Chair of the Permanent Council, Secretary General Luis Almagro, ASG Nestor Mentes, permanent representatives, alternate members, observers, staff members of the General Secretariat, the Secretary General's family, who is with us here today. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor for me to speak on behalf of Costa Rica here today, to join in bidding farewell to Luis Almagro Lemes as he concludes his mandate as the Secretary General of this organization. Over the last 10 years, where Luis has led the Secretariat of the OAS, he has overcome a slew of challenges in the region. He defended our organization's values under the structure of the 4 pillars that characterized his effort: democracy, human rights, hemispheric security, and development with equity, all under the slogan of more rights for more people. I would like to highlight, among so many other aspects, his support for so many transformative initiatives that sought to establish a fairer, a more equitable organization, and we welcome the support he gave to the declaration proposed by Costa Rica to consolidate the OAS as a safe space for all women. This commitment, adopted by member states from the very beginning, had the full support of the Secretary General. This effort will not only leave a mark on the institution, it conveys a clear message that has been transmitted over all these years. There's no full democracy without equality, inclusion, respect, or dignity for all people, especially for those who historically have been the victims of harassment and violence. Secretary General, beyond the clear differences that might have arisen in such a diverse space like the Permanent Council, we know that there was a unifying factor here: the conviction that this organization should be an active and relevant space to address political matters affecting the region, in addition to holding true to the foundational principles. We appreciate your leadership, your commitment, and the fact that with conviction and decisiveness, you held the reins of this organization through complex times. We wish you the best going forward. We hope that everything you do in the future, you do with the appreciation that we share for all your commitment and bravery. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Secretary General. Thank you so much, dear Eugenio. I now give the floor to the delegation of Paraguay. Thank you very much, Chair. Secretary General Luis Almagro, ASG Nestor Mentes, distinguished colleagues, dear authorities of the OAS, all the staff members of our organization. It's such an honor for me to speak here on behalf of the delegation of Paraguay to bid farewell to Luis Almagro as he closes his time as the Secretary General for the Organization of American States. I feel especially honored to get to do this because, and I'm going to get a little personal here, destiny would have it that our paths would cross on multiple occasions throughout our individual or respective trajectories. And now I get to say, see you later to Luis in a professional capacity. Over the last 10 years, Luis Almagro has helped to address the complexities of the continent, keeping clear the fundamental principles of this organization. For Paraguay, our relationship to the General Secretariat and its leadership has been quite constructive. We are glad to have been able to name an office and an officer to this space. And some of our colleagues here today got to know that officer. This act, Secretary General, was welcomed with true appreciation by the people and the government of Paraguay. So on their behalf, I want to thank you for putting one of ours in such an important position. Also, thank you for your constant support in our electoral processes. These missions, always characterized by professionalism, a firm commitment to transparency and democracy, have been a great source of support for institutionality in Paraguay. We also are glad to know that some Paraguayans were able to lead many of these missions in other countries throughout the hemisphere, recognizing the technical capacity that our citizens have. Today, we say goodbye to a Secretary General that has overcome many challenges, but maintained a commitment to the values we all share and our organization's 4 pillars. Similarly, we express our acknowledgement for the trusted team that helped him with such professionalism and dedication over the course of those 10 years in all areas of the organization. Chair, on behalf of the delegation of Paraguay, we wish the Secretary General, Almagro, best wishes in all of his future personal and professional endeavors, and we reiterate our acknowledgement for the years of service delivered to this organization. Dear Luis, I hope fate will bring us together under happy circumstances once more. Thank you. Good luck. I now give the floor to the delegation of Barbados. You have the floor, Ambassador.
Thank you. Secretary General Almagro, permanent representatives, Assistant Secretary General, alternate representatives, permanent observers, and family members. This afternoon, my delegation takes the floor to join the chorus of speakers who will bid adieu to Secretary General Luis Almagro. For 10 years, Secretary General Almagro, you have guided the Organization of American States, ensuring that this organization remained relevant and in tune with the needs of its constituents. This you did, and always with an ever-present smile. As we reach the end of your term of office, we reflect on your contributions, your dedication to excellence, and your unwavering commitment to our shared goals have ensured that the OAS remained on the minds of our constituents. In the short time that I've served as my country's permanent representative, I've seen your ability to connect, to listen, and to encourage. At times like this, it is difficult to truly encapsulate in a few words the impact of 10 years at the helm of this hemispheric organization. Secretary General Almagro, you have been more than just a figurehead. From all reports, you have been a supporter not only of the hemisphere, but also of the CARICOM region. This organization has been a vibrant and enduring forum for discussing, debating, and advancing our shared inter-American values. The OAS Charter has served as our compass and as our guide, calling on each of us to offer our citizens a hemisphere where democracy advances opportunities and protects the liberty of all of our citizens. In this quest, Secretary General Almagro, you have served the hemisphere with distinction. We know that these principles require constant effort to uphold, that they must be defended, strengthened, and expanded every day through shared commitment and collective action. It is only through this joint effort that this organization can address the complex challenges and seek the opportunities of today. Secretary General Almagro, you may say that you have served this organization with your inimitable style and helped to promote the 4 principles of this organization. While it is almost always bittersweet to say farewell, it would be remiss of my delegation to do otherwise. We know that wherever your path leads, you will continue to make an impact and a difference, just as you have here. On behalf of the government of Barbados, thank you for your service and farewell.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Grenada.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Distinguished representatives, excellencies, esteemed colleagues, Secretary General Almagro, Assistant Secretary General Almagro and family, it is with a spirit of reflection excuse me, and respect that I take the floor today on behalf of Grenada's delegation. Indeed, having served at the tail end of your tenure, also the warmth of my predecessors, Ambassadors Friday and Smith, may be in these words. Your tenure, indeed, Secretary General, has spanned a period of extraordinary challenges and transformation across our hemisphere. Throughout, as we observed, you've demonstrated an unrelenting commitment to the foundational pillars of this organization, the 4 identified. We acknowledge in particular your principled and often courageous defense of democratic institutions in complex and shifting political environments. We value your facilitation and oversight of several OAS electoral observation missions, ensuring free and transparent elections throughout our hemisphere. Your insistence on transparency and accountability has helped sustain a moral compass for the work of the OAS, even in the most difficult of times. You have also brought sustained attention to hemispheric concerns such as inequality, regional insecurity, and the protection of vulnerable populations. These are issues that continue to shape our collective development and demand bold, inclusive leadership. And we appreciate your promotion of dialogue between nations and communities towards addressing these subjects. Secretary General, while member states may not always align in outlook or emphasis, we can all recognize your tireless work ethic and your willingness to engage, to listen, and to respond. Grenada, as the member state, and along with member states of the Eastern Caribbean, I can say, we take particular note of your responsiveness to the disasters in the period in which you served, especially the recent wake of Hurricane Beryl, a disaster that caused widespread devastation across parts of our sub-region. We commend your swift convening of the Inter-American Committee on Natural Disaster Reduction in critical post-Beryl weeks. This act of hemispheric solidarity is an example that underscores the importance of timely coordination, of multilateral engagement, and the value of OAS as a platform for practical support to small and vulnerable states in moments of crisis. We also recognize your efforts to modernize the organization, indeed, striving to align it with the demands and expectations of a rapidly evolving regional and global landscape. Indeed, as mentioned before, you close a chapter. And as we close this chapter with you, we extend our sincere appreciation for your service to the peoples of the Americas. Your leadership has fostered great progress in the diplomatic arenas of our hemisphere and great relations you have been able to assist us in building among our nations. We wish you, Excellency Luis Almagro, continued success and fulfillment in the years ahead, whatever form you take. The challenges before us, Excellencies, remain, but so does the opportunity, indeed the obligation, to build on the legacy of His Excellency's leadership. May we as member states move forward in a spirit of renewed cooperation, shared responsibility, and enduring commitment to a more just, inclusive, and secure hemisphere that our friend Luis Almagro will be proud of as he looks on from his next stanza. Thank you very much.
Passo a palavra.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Canada.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Chair. Excellency, Secretary General Luis Almagro, and your entire team, your family as well. On behalf of the Government of Canada and the people of Canada, it is an honor to pay tribute today to the work you've undertaken throughout your mandate as Secretary General of the Organization of American States. We thank you. We appreciate your unwavering dedication and your major contributions to our collective goals, seeking to promote democracy, human rights, security, and integral development throughout our region. Since you took office in 2015, you have undoubtedly embodied what it means to lead with passion. Since you were elected, you clearly showed that your mission was to defend democracy and human rights, not in an abstract sense, but through concrete action. You reminded us that democracy cannot be taken for granted. It must be cultivated, protected, and, when necessary, defended, like in the case of Guyana, Guatemala, as well, throughout your time, just to mention a couple of examples.
Secretary General, your stance on situations in Nicaragua and in Venezuela, among other crises, demonstrated your strong conviction that the OAS must speak up and act when the rights and freedoms of the citizens of our hemisphere are under threat. Your call for more rights for more people has served as a rallying cry for inclusive governance. Your leadership helped place human rights and dignity at the forefront of the OAS agenda, advocating for those whose voices are too often marginalized: women, indigenous peoples, Afro-descendants, LGBTQI+, religious and cultural minorities, and the economically disenfranchised. Your dedication to the advancement and protection of human rights resonates deeply with Canadians, and we thank you for your work in this area. This commitment also informed your approach to all four pillars of the OAS. We saw this in your work to advance multidimensional security by recognizing the range of established and emerging threats in the Americas and ensuring that the OAS's efforts to confront these threats took into account human rights considerations and addressed interlinked issues such as poverty and exclusion. Your contribution as Secretary General has truly highlighted the interconnected nature of the four pillars of this organization. As the highest official of the OAS, you have championed diplomatic and political action with the goal of making this organization more effective as a positive agent for change. Your tenure has also been marked by a deep commitment to multilateralism, inclusion, and your passionate commitment to your values. Whether working with all member states or with actors from outside the hemisphere, you have championed the OAS as an organization that can and must work with the broader international community to achieve its goals. On behalf of the Government of Canada, thank you and thank your team for your vision, your courage, and your unwavering service to the Americas. I consulted my predecessors on this intervention, and remarkably, their reaction was unanimously one of talk about his human warmth, his caring leadership, his smile, and his laugh. And I think that speaks loudly to the fact that in addition to your substance, you've always led with humanity. In fact, if I were asked for one word to describe you as a leader here, I would say passionate. I say you are an exemplar of passionate leadership. So may that passion continue to burn in you and light your way as you undertake, I'm sure, what will be fascinating and very important future endeavors. And may you have every success with those. Thank you very much.
Passo a palavra.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Argentina. Ambassador?
Señor Presidente.
Chair. Colleagues. Dear ASG and all staff members of the OAS. Dear Secretary General. The members of this organization delivered you a mandate based on the pillars of the OAS. You were meant to lead this organization and put all your political experience to the service of the Americas. And there are many different ways to lead. Obviously, it's hard to lead and not be criticized and not step on anyone's toes. Namely, if such leadership means putting it all on the line and playing hardball like we do in the Southern Cone. And although you've had other diplomatic positions, when I think of the inter-American setting, you've had to really think about your role here at the head of the OAS. When I came here to take on a role at the OAS, I was fortunate enough to extend a friendly hand. And before expressing what my credentials were, you made it clear that the OAS needed to be, or before expressing your credentials, you expressed how important it was that the OAS be present in all matters. People from Uruguay are moderate, austere, dignified individuals, and you honored that tradition, but there's something else I have to add. You added great personal leadership because you fought hard for democracy in the Americas and you set the bar incredibly high. I think that the accumulated experience of so many battles should not be set aside by your country or the inter-American system. You have conveyed a message that cannot be ignored. I want to especially acknowledge your team, Gustavo Sinosi's entire team, another good friend that I could not possibly imagine your management without his presence. All of those individuals who have accompanied you along the way. And to close, special acknowledgement to your family. Time is limited, and we all know that you've given so much of your time to these fights, these battles, and someone suffered for it. And now it's time to make up for lost time and bring balance so that you can spend time with family. Finally, Chair, I'm going to break consensus. I apologize. I will not say goodbye to Almagro just yet. I'll say see you later. I hope to keep communication with him no matter where he heads, because that's how friendship works. Friendship is for life. I now give the floor to the delegation of St. Lucia.
Thank you, Chair. I begin by conveying the sincere apologies of Ambassador Elizabeth Darius-Clark, whose absence today is regrettably due to circumstances beyond her control. On behalf of the government and people of St. Lucia,
I express our deep appreciation to Secretary General Luis Almagro as he concludes his tenure at the helm of the Organization of American States. Secretary General Almagro served at a time of great complexity in our hemisphere. Over the years, he has navigated a landscape marked by political transitions, democratic tests, public health crises, and calls for more equitable and inclusive development. Through it all, he remained firm in his conviction that the OAS must stand as a pillar of democratic governance, human rights, multidimensional security, and integral development. St. Lucia is particularly grateful for Secretary General Almagro's demonstrated commitment to the CARICOM states. He recognized early on that the unique vulnerabilities of our small island and low-lying coastal developing states, ranging from climate change and public health emergencies to economic fragility, require not only acknowledgement, but meaningful advocacy and tailored action. Under his leadership, the Caribbean's voice has been heard and our concerns elevated across multiple fora within the inter-American system. We also appreciate his support in education, health, youth empowerment, and institutional strengthening across the region, areas where his administration worked to create tangible pathways for progress. His advocacy has in many ways brought greater hemispheric attention to the aspirations of our people. Mr. Chair, it would be remiss of us not to acknowledge that the Secretary General Almagro's tenure was also marked by moments of divergence. There were instances where not all member states, including St. Lucia, found themselves fully aligned with particular decisions or approaches undertaken by the Office of the Secretary General. However, we recognize that these decisions were made in good faith and in what the Secretary General deemed to be in the best interests of the peoples of the hemisphere. We acknowledge the weight and responsibility of such leadership, and we respect the courage it requires. As he brings his chapter to a close, St. Lucia offers his best wishes to Secretary General Almagro in all his future endeavors. We thank him for his years of dedicated service, for his resolute voice, and for his unwavering commitment to the values enshrined in the OAS Charter. May his legacy serve as a foundation upon which the next chapter of this organization is built, with renewed unity, strengthened trust, and shared purpose. May the OAS remain steadfast in its pursuit for advancing and safeguarding the rights of all peoples of the hemisphere, or in the words of S.G. Almagro, more rights for more people. I thank you.
Passo a palavra.
Guyana is recognized.
Mr. Chairman, permanent and interim representatives, Secretary General Luis Almagro, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez. On behalf of the government of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, I take this opportunity to express our gratitude to you, Secretary General Almagro, for your unstinting service to the Organization of American States, the countries and peoples of the Americas. It is quite a feat to steer an organization whose members are states that share many common challenges, but also have different histories which lead to differing views and interests. I am aware that there are specific issues where states, including Guyana, have viewed matters of regional concern and operations in the organization from a different lens, but for the most part, our discussions were conducted in a collegial manner underpinned by a focus on the principles and values of the OAS and on ensuring the region's peace, security, and prosperity. We have seen substantial work undertaken to bring alignment and flexibility to the organization and acknowledge the dedication and commitment displayed by you, Secretary General, in seeking the fulfillment of the Charter of the OAS. Your unfailing efforts, Secretary General, to promote and preserve democracy and human rights have not gone unnoticed. You have been steadfast in the commitment to defending democratic principles and taken an unwavering stance on the respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. Guyana has benefited from these efforts, with a very notable example being the 2020 general and regional elections, where a serious attempt was made to undermine the outcome of the electoral process. We were particularly grateful to the OAS for its support and action in that period of national concern. It stands as a perfect example of why the people of the Americas need the OAS. Whilst there were many other notable initiatives throughout your tenure, Guyana, in recognizing the integral link of democracy and development, was particularly appreciative of the support extended to CARICOM in the implementation of the framework strategy document From Vulnerability to Resilience, as well as your advocacy of a new development partnership for CARICOM members with the FIIs in Washington and other development partners. There is still much work to be done, but as with all things, the time comes when the baton is to be passed from one to another, bringing a sense of rebirth and renewal. And we must all in due course turn to new pastures and endeavors. We wish you the best, Secretary General, and look forward to engaging and collaborating with you in other facets of life in the future. We thank you.
Passo a palavra à delegação do Panamá.
Panama is recognized. Thank you, Chair. Panama would like to echo the recognition that we are expressing today for Secretary General Luis Almagro in this protocolary session of the Permanent Council. After a decade at the helm of the OAS, 10 years in which his leadership has characterized our organization. Throughout this time, the Secretary General has been a staunch, tireless voice defending the fundamental principles of the Inter-American Democratic Charter. He's raised his voice unwaveringly in the face of threats that have shaken our region, and he's done so with the conviction that democracy cannot be neutralized by indifference. It's also worth noting his defense of gender equality. Secretary Almagro has driven from his position initiatives to close the gender gap, shed light on inequality, and empower women in decision-making spaces. Adopting institutional policies on gender equality, as well as supporting them and creating parity mechanisms, are part of that legacy that will continue to bear fruit. Panama has found in Luis Almagro a valuable ally who is accessible and dedicated. In difficult times, he has provided us with decisive, clear support. We particularly value his reiteration of the OAS's commitment to the Torrijos-Cartas Treaty and the Panama Canal. His openness has been notable. He's always willing to listen, dialogue, think outside the box. On many occasions, Panama has had his active participation in fora, missions, and projects. His voice works to build bridges even in times of tension with his characteristic sense of humor as he builds fertile ground for understanding. This mix of strong convictions is part of the legacy he is leaving, a legacy measured not only in resolutions and communiques, but also a human quality that he has demonstrated in every mission, every country, with every civil servant who has worked alongside him. Secretary General, Panama thanks you for your dedication, leadership, and commitment to the highest values of this hemisphere, and we wish you most success in your future endeavors. The Organization of American States, without a doubt, will continue to celebrate your legacy with clarity, conviction, and bravery. Thank you very much. Suriname is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was
it is with a deep sense of respect and appreciation that my delegation joins this protocolary meeting to extend its farewell to His Excellency Luis Almagro, Secretary General of the Organization of American States. Mr. Secretary General, on behalf of the government of the Republic of Suriname, we wish to express our sincere appreciation for your unwavering service over the past decade, during which you have led the organization with resolve and conviction. You have guided the OAS through a period marked by regional challenges and transformation, always grounded in your commitment to democratic values, the rule of law, and the protection of human rights. We acknowledge your efforts to strengthen the organization's role in defending democratic institutions and promoting multilateral dialogue in our hemisphere. Under your stewardship, the organization has expanded its engagement in critical areas, including election observation and the promotion of human dignity. Under your leadership, the organization has reaffirmed its indispensable role as the premier multilateral forum of the Americas, a space where dialogue is nurtured, diversity is respected, and the rule of law is championed. Secretary General Almagro, Suriname particularly values your inclusive approach toward all member states and your belief in the power of diplomacy, qualities that will continue to resonate within this organization. As we reflect on your legacy, we also look ahead to a new chapter in the life of this institution. Suriname is humbled and honored that its next Secretary General will be from our nation. We regard this not only as a source of great national pride, but also as a shared hemispheric milestone, one that reaffirms the OAS as a forum where all voices, large and small, may be heard and entrusted with leadership. As your successor prepares to assume office, Suriname stands ready to work with all delegations to build on the progress achieved during your tenure. Mr. Chair, with your kind indulgence, I would like to take this opportunity to convey a personal message on behalf of Minister Albert Ramdin, Secretary General-elect, who entrusted me with the honor of delivering the following message. Dear Secretary General, my dear friend, Luis, you have been at the helm of this hemispheric body for the past 10 years. It feels like yesterday since you took over the reins. It was not an easy task to deal effectively with some of the institutional and political challenges. But rest assured, you did well. I know how strong you personally felt about some of the attacks on democracy and human rights. I appreciate your principled stand on norms and values that are all dear to us. That will not be forgotten and guiding us forward. As you close this chapter and embark on new paths, I extend to you my very best wishes for continued success, good health, and fulfillment in your future endeavors. Albert. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Passo a palavra.
The United States is recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Secretary General, Mr. Assistant Secretary General, and colleagues, I must begin by saying I was amused by the Assistant Secretary General's revelation that you are able to recite the monologue from Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction. Amused, slightly terrified. but not entirely surprised, because as some of my colleagues have already said, you live your life in the way that you have carried out your duties as Secretary General of this institution, that is with passion, wholeheartedly, and with enthusiasm. So colleagues, the United States is pleased to join this session recognizing Secretary General Almagro's decade of leadership here at the Organization of American States. Since taking office, Secretary General Almagro has elevated the profile of the OAS as our hemisphere's leading defender of democracy. He has been an unyielding voice in the face of authoritarianism, giving the OAS institutional backbone in moments of profound regional challenge. He reminded us that defending the Inter-American Democratic Charter is not a mere statement of principle. It is the cornerstone of this body's legitimacy and purpose. My Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has commended Secretary General Almagro for his steadfast leadership and defense of democracy. And I will quote, "Throughout his tenure, he served as a strong voice in confronting authoritarian repression by the Maduro, Nicaraguan, and Cuban regimes. The OAS must remain firm in its commitment to promote free and fair elections and safeguard fundamental freedoms consistent with its founding charter and the Inter-American Democratic Charter," end quote. Under Secretary General Almagro's tenure, the OAS responded with resolve to serious political and human rights crises across our hemisphere. His leadership in championing the application of the Democratic Charter in Venezuela set a precedent for collective action. He consistently defended the rights of the Nicaraguan people amid brutal repression from the Ortega Murillo authoritarian dictatorship. And he advocated for fundamental freedoms in Cuba, where dissent continues to be criminalized by the regime. Secretary General Almagro also ensured that the OAS expanded its capacity to observe and support free and fair elections, increasing confidence in democratic institutions and citizen participation. These missions, whether in Guatemala, Bolivia, Haiti, or here in the United States, these missions provided critical technical assessments that help to uphold the integrity of electoral outcomes. The United States values this record, and we believe that this institution's credibility in this regard remains one of its greatest assets. Secretary General Almagro's support for the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights also deepened the OAS's role in protecting freedom of expression and debate, religious freedom, and human dignity. Under his watch, the OAS has become a more responsive and more vocal defender of civic engagement and democratic institutions. On Haiti, the Secretary General brought needed regional attention to one of the most complex and urgent governance and security crises in our hemisphere. The United States continues to share his concern. We support efforts to restore public order, strengthen democratic institutions, and address the pressing humanitarian needs of the Haitian people. The OAS, as this hemisphere's premier multilateral forum, has an important role to play in supporting the Haitian-led pursuit of stability, security, and democratic renewal. Mr. Chair, the U.S. government remains firmly committed to the principles of the OAS Charter and the Democratic Charter. In this spirit, we will continue to amplify current demands for freedom and dignity in Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba, to address the crisis in Haiti through regional coordination, to counter illegal immigration, transnational crime, corruption, and electoral manipulation, to defend freedom of expression and freedom of religion or belief, and to ensure that the OAS remains a guardian of democracy in our hemisphere. Mr. Secretary General, thank you for your service. Your tenure has been marked by moral clarity and a commitment to action. We wish you continued success, and we thank you for your contributions to the cause of freedom and dignity in our region. Thank you.
Paso a palabra, delegación.
Chile is recognized. Ambassador.
Muchas gracias, presidente.
Thank you, Chair. whether it's a coincidence or not, today has been quite eloquent for our delegation. It's the same day that we are bidding farewell to Secretary General Almagro, and we have received the report from the Electoral Observation Mission for 2023 in Guatemala, which was led by Ambassador Losayaga and the entire team from the Electoral Observation Department. And this is a very welcome coincidence because our delegation salutes and values the approach of Secretary General Almagro in the face of the electoral and post-electoral crisis that beset Guatemala. And we note that this is just part of the legacy he is leaving our organization. Indeed, Chair, the legacy of Secretary General Almagro in this crisis led to diplomatic and political action, and it's particularly valuable in the sense that he demonstrated that certain dichotomies were false. He showed that certain apparent contradictions, which often come up in these debates, are not what they seem. In the interest of time, which we always respect, we will only share three. First, the actions of Secretary General Almagro in the crisis showed that there is no incompatibility between the most fervent democratic conviction and the ability to dialogue. That ability to dialogue with those who don't necessarily share the belief that democracy is sine qua non. And so this crisis was resolved in this dialogue where we saw how important that was. And a second dichotomy is that, and it's worth noting, Chair, that we have to look between the force and gradual action. And here we saw the force of complex political issues, and it was, of course, very nuanced. We saw the gradual use of tools available that led to the acts that we saw play out. And the third false dichotomy, Chair, is that there is no contradiction between action and taking care to follow procedure. The action of the Secretary General during this crisis was always in line with the mandate of the states. He created regular mechanisms and specific time frames, and he showed that multilateral action can be more powerful when everyone is involved, when we find a common denominator, when we are able to share a commitment through our differences. And as part of that, the Secretary General was focused on conviction and dialogue, action and following protocols. And this was a very positive result to the crisis, and that is why it's so timely for us and so fortunate for us to be able to listen to that report this morning. And thank you very much for that. And so it wouldn't be fair for our delegation to miss the opportunity to recognize the efforts that the Secretary General made in making gender a cross-cutting issue at this organization and embracing the historically marginalized, vulnerable groups at the OAS over the last 10 years, which are now coming to a conclusion. And so I would like to salute all of these years of work and the Secretary General, as well as his team, his family, and we would like to let you know that the door is always open here at the OAS. And we know that over the last 10 years, all of these convictions have guided you at the helm of the organization. Thank you very much. The Dominican Republic is recognized. Thank you, Chair of the Permanent Council, Luis Almagro, Secretary General of the OAS. Nestor Mendez, Assistant Secretary General. Dear permanent representatives and permanent observers, on behalf of the Dominican Republic, I would like to express our most sincere recognition for Mr. Luis Almagro as he culminates his mandate as Secretary General of the Organization of American States. After a decade of service committed to leading this hemispheric organization, over the last 10 years of leadership, Mr. Almagro has played a key role in defending democracy, human rights, security, and comprehensive development for our people, highlighting his motto, more rights for more people. Under his management, the OAS has stood steadfast in promoting the democratic order, even in particularly complex contexts, reiterating the fundamental principles of the Inter-American Democratic Charter in doing so. Similarly, we share his interest in driving greater institutional modernization at the OAS, seeking a more efficient and inclusive organization that is, above all, closer to the citizens as we take on the contemporary challenges of the Americas. His strong vision in the face of political and social crises in our region have left an undeniable mark on the recent history of the OAS. We would like to particularly highlight the ongoing collaboration that he maintained with the people and government of the Dominican Republic. On many occasions, the Secretary General expressed his willingness to support our national initiatives, participation in local events, which included the physical presence of the Secretary General himself, as a show of his decisive support from the Office of the General Secretariat of the OAS for our local initiatives, as well as the support in multilateral fora where we debated key topics for our region in the Americas. His openness to dialogue, respect for the sovereignty of states, and his commitment to institutional strengthening in member states were always extremely valuable for our nation. Today, as we conclude this very important cycle, we express our most sincere congratulations and our deepest gratitude for his tireless work. We trust that the lessons and contributions over the last 10 years will continue to bear their fruit beyond these walls. We wish you, Mr. Secretary General, most success in your future endeavors, both personal and professional. We hope that this new chapter brings new opportunities to continue serving the values that you have defended with such conviction. Thank you very much.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Ecuador.
Gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Secretary General, ASG, distinguished representatives. At the conclusion of your mandate as the Secretary General, Ecuador wants to recognize the time, dedication, and effort invested in leading this organization over the last 10 years. Your management coincided with a particularly complex time for the organization when multilateralism, political will, and the capacity for response to such challenges were put in play. Your leadership marked processes that left all kinds of results for our system. Our region is defined by great priorities, histories, and diversity. That diversity is seen as a kind of wealth that constantly calls on us to build bridges, recognize our differences, but at the same time build long-lasting consensus. And the four pillars that uphold the OAS, democracy, human rights, security, and integral development, remain the common foundation upon which we must guide our collective work. At the head of our work, leading this organization means being equanimous, balanced, and being able to display proper leadership with great respect, without seeking out scapegoats It's about identifying common points that will allow us to move forward with a common vision based on equity, mutual respect, and a genuine will to integrate. At the close of such a time of constant effort, Ecuador recognizes the work undertaken under your leadership as Secretary General. At the same time, we reiterate that the learning achieved throughout this time must be a basis to continue to build a hemisphere that works better together, one that is more solid and resilient. Ecuador hopes to continue contributing to a more effective OAS, one more focused on institutionality through respectful dialogue and the search for shared solutions to the challenges that we face. Secretary General, we hope that your legacy of more rights for more people will remain a North Star. We wish you success going forward. Thank you very much. I now give the floor to the delegation of Guatemala. Ambassador. Thank you, Chair. My delegation thanks the convening of this protocolary session. It's an honor to take the floor on behalf of Guatemala in order to pay due tribute to the Secretary General of the Organization of American States, Mr. Luis Almagro, for his efforts at the head of this organization for the last decade. At this occasion, we recognize the leadership of Secretary Luis Almagro as the main representative of the OAS. His leadership, his defense of the values we share, democracy, human rights, peace, security, and the development of our nations. Mr. Secretary General, under your leadership, the OAS set itself up as a key actor in regional governance, as a legitimate forum for political dialogue, and an effective mechanism for multilateral action. Your conviction to strengthen the democracies of the continent, consolidate the rule of law, and defend popular will has left a major mark in the contemporary history of the Americas. Guatemala, as a founding member of this organization, has been a direct beneficiary of this commitment during the general elections of 2023, when our democracy went one of the most challenging and complex moments of its history. You trusted in the people of Guatemala and supported its decision. Like President Arevalo, you spared no effort, and you made available all institutional capacities of the OAS. Your help was fundamental to ensure public trust in the electoral process and to ensure that democratic standards and human rights were respected, and that the results accurately reflect the will of the people of Guatemala. When the EOM ended and someone tried to undermine those results through questionable practices, the OAS was able to respond with equanimity and determination, and used all instruments possible to ensure a peaceful, transparent transition of power. You, Luis Almagro, were present many times in our country to aid in moments of great political tension, but your help for Guatemala didn't end there. When we requested it, the General Secretariat established a special mission to observe the electoral process for courts in 2024, which was a milestone in second level EOMs. This consolidated mechanisms to strengthen judicial independence and institutional strengthening. Helping democracy in Guatemala is one of the most relevant examples of success in the Americas in recent years. Secretary Almagro, your leadership is something that has been a constant. You have always remained a bastion for places like Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Haiti. Your firm voice in the defense of fundamental rights and political will to work against repression and authoritarianism have been a North Star for citizens throughout the continent, citizens who want to live in peace and freedom, where their rights are respected. You promoted actions that sought to protect human rights, especially those of historically marginalized groups. Additionally, it was under your leadership that the OAS was able to strengthen efforts in the area of multidimensional security and promote regional cooperation to fight against scourges like organized crime, drug trafficking, and corruption. Similarly, you promoted educational initiatives that have empowered new generations, which today dream of a more inclusive hemisphere, one of greater solidarity. We want to express our gratitude to the OAS for their constant solidarity. Thanks to the office now open in the adjacency zone, we've seen great progress in terms of promoting dialogue, cooperation, and local development. Such aid has been fundamental to promoting peace and generating confidence among parties, and to establish a definite final resolution within the international courts. Chair, history will recognize that our organization is now more relevant. It is more solid. You were able to adapt to changing challenges and strengthen our democracies, Secretary General. And so in January of this year, Arevalo made the decision to share its highest distinction of honor with you. This is our opportunity to express our thanks for all that you have done, the dedication you've shown, and the service you've delivered to Guatemala. Thank you to your team. Thank you so much. I now give the floor to the delegation of Uruguay. Thank you so much, Chair. Today we are here to bid farewell to our Secretary General after 2 consecutive mandates, but also a compatriot of ours who has been the Minister for Foreign Affairs for Uruguay in the period previous to being the SG for the OAS. During that time, he maintained his independence, he followed his principles, and was loyal to his style. He was always vocal in the areas of human rights, and we cannot ignore the fact that your time at the head of this organization was characterized by great contrast and challenges. We know that promoting more rights for more people is the motto that the Secretary General adopted for this decade. Unfortunately, we are from the most unequal continent in the world, but the OAS is a space for fundamental institutionality that allows for guaranteeing greater rights for more people. And that is why Uruguay gives such importance to this forum and its institutional strengthening. Luis, we thank you for your dedication and all of the time given to the OAS. We wish you success in future projects, and we hope you continue to contribute in other areas to build a fairer and more inclusive continent. Thank you so much. I now give the floor to the delegation of Belize.
One of the consequences of being late to add your name to the list of speakers is that everybody has said a lot of what you wanted to say, right? But nonetheless, on behalf of the government and people of Belize, I want to add that we express our sincere appreciation to Secretary General Luis Almagro as he concludes his distinguished tenure at the helm of the Organization of American States. Secretary General, your steadfast commitment to the foundational pillars of this organization of democracy, human rights, security, and development has left a lasting legacy not only within this institution, but throughout the hemisphere. Your leadership withstood changing hemispheric dynamics and an unprecedented period in our modern history, the global COVID-19 pandemic, which challenged the resilience of our institutions and the spirit of hemispheric solidarity. We've heard others speak of the strength of your leadership through these challenging times. But we are also particularly grateful for the attention you have given to the needs and perspectives of small states, such as ours in the Caribbean and in Central America. In fact, you have not merely acknowledged the unique challenges and vulnerabilities of small developing states, but you have actively championed our causes, and your leadership has helped ensure that our voices are heard, our concerns addressed, and our contributions recognized. SG Belize is especially appreciative of your unwavering support for the confidence building measures between Belize and Guatemala. Your guidance and the work of the OAS office in the adjacency zone has been instrumental in maintaining dialogue and promoting peace between our two nations. And Belize will long remember your role in nurturing this delicate process, and we remain hopeful that the organization will continue to accord this matter the attention and commitment that you have so rightfully given it, as well as many of the other initiatives that you have started. More rights for more people, recognition of women rights and their situation. We trust that the organization will continue to follow up on these matters. On a personal note, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to work alongside you during your tenure. It has been a privilege for me to witness your leadership up close and to note your genuine concern for the well-being of the less fortunate and disadvantaged throughout the Americas, which has been manifest throughout your tenure and has undoubtedly been a driving force in this organization. SG, as you move on to new chapters, please accept our deepest thanks and best wishes, and may your future endeavors continue to be marked by the same passion and integrity you have shown during your time here at the OAS. On behalf of Belize, I extend our deepest thanks for your service and our very best wishes for continued success in all that lies ahead. Thank you.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Peru. Ambassador. Chair, today we bid farewell to Luis Almagro as Secretary General of the Organization of American States, the OAS. On behalf of Peru, we express our acknowledgement for your 10 years of service to this organization. Throughout your time, the OAS has worked actively for the benefit of democracy. Your work can be seen where we saw the greatest changes to constitutional order. Your work was important to building orderly solutions. Under your leadership, many EOMs were also promoted, and the OAS positioned itself as an authority in observing such procedures. As a member of the Council of Europe, at an event in 2017, I was able to speak at a meeting convened by Maduro and Venezuela. I was very concerned with what was happening there. Also worth noting are your efforts to keep the organization an open space for dialogue when we had to talk about politics, health, all kinds of matters. And closing this chapter means that we member states have to continue to strengthen the democratic charter of the OAS. The OAS must continue to ensure freedom. That is what defines us as a hemisphere. Peru renews its commitment to the founding principles of this organization, and we welcome the new authorities that will take on the challenge of building the organization for the benefit of all inhabitants of the Americas. We reiterate our thanks to Luis Almagro, and we wish him the best in his professional and personal goals moving forward. Thank you. I now give the floor to the delegation of Haiti. Ambassador, you have the floor. Chair, Secretary General, ASG Nestor Mendez, ladies and gentlemen, permanent representatives, alternative representatives of the member states, permanent observers, distinguished colleagues, friends, excellencies. The Haitian delegation wants to thank the General Secretariat for organizing this session at the OAS to bid farewell to the Secretary General of the OAS, Luis Almagro. We would like to pay solemn tribute to Secretary General Luis Leonardo Almagro, Lemes specifically, who has always had time to listen to the plight of Haiti and its people. He keeps an image of Haiti's soccer team in his office and will be at the symposium tomorrow on the security situation in Haiti. I will never forget the kindness with which he welcomed me during the at one of the events held here at the OAS when I was an ambassador on February 20th of 2025. He took the care to show his greatest solidarity and friendship for the people of Haiti. Additionally, my delegation takes this opportunity to recognize the work of Luis Almagro. He has been a giant in our multilateral system. He has expertise in many areas, but is specifically an expert on the Inter-American cooperation system. And I also want to take this opportunity to welcome his dynamism, his competence, his leadership, his mastery of complex matters, his sense for negotiation, his willingness to help, and his genius, which has allowed the organization to climb to new heights. And so the delegation of Haiti thanks you, Mr. Secretary General, for your dedication and your constant service to the countries of the hemisphere. And we all wish you the absolute best for your career moving forward. Thank you very much. And I'll give the floor to the delegation of Colombia, Ambassador. Thank you, Chair. Representatives of the permanent missions to the OAS, Mr. Secretary General Luis Almagro, your wife as well, Luis Almandra Marie, ASG Nestor Mendez, distinguished guests, friends, colleagues. It is a true honor to speak at this protocolary session to bid farewell to a colleague and a friend who has given 10 years of his life to the OAS, and throughout his mandate as Secretary General of the same, has kept his commitment to the principles and goals of this organization. His leadership in critical moments has been fundamental to defending democracy and human rights throughout the region, which I know firsthand from when I have been at the head of my own mission. Throughout his mandate, the OAS strengthened its role as an electoral observer, publishing reports on each occasion and promoting South-South cooperation to promote greater citizen participation as well. In the year 2023 in Guatemala, I saw, because we all participated in that process, how he made democracy an end in and of itself. Colombia will always appreciate his constant support for the peace process in the peace process support mission of the OAS, the MAP, because this has contributed concretely to the peace negotiations by demobilizing combatants, and the OAS's special role has strengthened in support of Colombia and civil society through monitoring and following up on some of the areas most affected by armed conflict, crime, and inequality. His commitment to peace, democracy, and the promotion of human rights will always be remembered. We want to reiterate our deepest gratitude for your service to the OAS and the member states represented here today. So we wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and we bid farewell in a spirit of gratitude. May you continue to enjoy soccer for the rest of your days. I now give the floor to Jamaica.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Secretary General Luis Almagro and his family, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez, Excellencies, Permanent Representatives, alternative representatives, permanent observers, staff at the OAS, and other distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my honor and pleasure on behalf of my delegation, and indeed the government and people of Jamaica, to pay tribute to an exemplary Secretary General who epitomizes dedication, commitment, and service to this organization, and by extension, the hemisphere. We are convinced, Secretary General, that your efforts to uphold the principles of human rights, democracy, the rights of women and persons in vulnerable situations, and the fight against transnational organized crime will leave an indelible mark on this organization. Additionally, we wish to thank you for your stewardship over the past decade, support for the efforts of member states, and particularly the Inter-American Commission on Women for the establishment of the halls of the heroines and heroes. But above all, your very congenial personality and ability to treat everyone with dignity and respect regardless of rank, color, age, or gender are the qualities that make you special. Please allow me to highlight that your ability to respect the views of all member states and to build consensus as the consummate diplomat are commendable. You are a good listener, yet resolute in your stance on transparency in the electoral process and the respect for democracy and the protection of rights of all peoples. Chair, Excellencies, my delegation would like to acknowledge and place on record just a few initiatives and engagement with Secretary General Almagro, who have served us and have left a lasting memory for my country, for which we are very grateful. In 2017, Secretary General Almagro addressed the inaugural United Nations World Tourism Organization Global Conference on Jobs and Inclusive Growth at the Montego Bay Convention Center. In 2020, the year of COVID-19 pandemic, and through tremendous challenges, Secretary General Almagro showed us the value of multilateralism, and that when we work together in partnership, we can overcome adverse challenges and build back stronger. He attended and addressed the 4th Energy and Climate Partnership Conference of the Americas ministerial meeting, which was held in Montego Bay, February 27 and 28 in 2020. Secretary General Almagro addressed the inaugural United Nations World Tourism Organization. In accordance with Article 5 of the Statutes of the Inter-American Emergency Aid Fund, FUNDEM, the OAS granted $25,000 in November 2020 to help our country address damages caused by Tropical Storm Eta and Zeta, and more recently, Hurricane Beryl. In October 2020, you were also a key speaker at the virtual roundtable of the Department of Public Security of the OAS with ministers of public security to discuss the challenges related to citizen security. The event, Chat with the OAS, was also established in collaboration with our regional office in Jamaica to bring the people closer to the work of the OAS and the region, particularly about the COVID-19 pandemic. And the first chat on the work of the OAS was held on the 14th of April 2021, Pan-American Day. The New Path program, which seeks to empower young people at the local level, continues to train young professionals to transition into the highest levels of professionalism and continue to foster skills. Secretary General and UE Vice Chancellor Professor Hilary Beckles were the speakers in the series of 15 speakers and over 157 participants at the ministerial conference. In closing, we have learned important lessons from you, Secretary General Almagro, about what it means to serve. We are indeed grateful to you for your commitment to strengthen the OAS and to build a more equitable and prosperous hemisphere. Secretary General Almagro, we are confident that our paths will cross again. We wish you every success in your future endeavors and in your personal well-being. Hasta luego. Bon voyage. And as we say in Jamaica, walk good. And in the words of the late Jamaican reggae icon, Robert Nesta Bob Marley, one love.
I now give the floor to the delegation of Honduras. Ambassador. Thank you very much, Chair Belloni, Secretary General Luis Almagro, ASG Nestor Mendez, and all our friends present here and elsewhere. Almagro, that's a worrying name, you know. It's kind of controversial when you hear it. So, you know, it's a little polarizing. I've even been chastised for speaking well of Almagro, so I'm going to start with something said by a great composer, Pink Floyd, from his masterwork, The Wall.
To break my bones. Las despedidas.
Farewells are always sad occasions, it's true, but this time this will be the exception to the rule. We have to remind that time is fleeting, and I support Ambassador Belloni. He had a bell before. Now, you just have someone turn your mic off. And when my president, Xiomara Castro, designated me to the OAS, I was told that my mission was to build bridges of friendship among nations, bring us closer to the OAS, and bring harmony, insofar as was possible, to all countries. And then I was welcomed here. Luis Almagro already knew my profile back and forth when I showed up. And he made my introduction more literary sounding than diplomatic. Naturally, I realized this and said, they've got me in checkmate. But I had my counterintelligence as well. I knew that he was from Uruguay and that he was surrounded by South Americans. And I decided to extend an olive branch in the form of mate. And Almagro asked me at one point what I thought of the OAS. I said, do you want me to answer as a diplomat? If that's the case, I'll tell you what you want to hear. And then I said, if you want me to answer as a writer, I'll tell you the truth. He wanted to know the truth. And despite everything, all the questions, I told him of the coup d'etat of 2009 against Rosales, the years that our people were governed by a narco government. I remember that at the time, I had just arrived, and the writer, also an ambassador, Sir Sander, conducted a great study on Venezuela. And it was strange to me that we Hondurans were so liberal about criticizing other places, something that hasn't happened while I've been here, I think. My president, Xiomara Castro, has always worked so hard to respect non-interference in other countries. And Luis Almagro said that anything and everything that is done for the benefit of the people is democracy. When I said that democratic socialism, and we added socialism because a small group had taken democracy hostage in Honduras, well, by way of closing, I know that this isn't really a goodbye, it's a see you later. Almagro will either come to Honduras or we'll come here, we'll see each other maybe in Paraguay or Uruguay. And for those who don't understand our friendship, it has been more literary than political. Our colleagues have been Vargas Llosa, Marquez, Albert Camus. And I'll close with two things. I've got something by Kurt Vonnegut and another one by one of Almagro's favorite poets. You have to live as if you were immortal, and others never even taken into consideration. I now give the floor to Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, Chair. Excellency Secretary General Almagro and his family, Assistant Secretary General Mendez, the Trinidad and Tobago delegation joins other member states in extending heartfelt gratitude to Secretary General Almagro for his leadership and commitment to the Organization of American States. His dedication to fostering collaboration and dialogue among member states has been instrumental in addressing the challenges we face in our region. We commend his efforts in promoting democracy, human rights, and sustainable development. Secretary General, it has been a pleasure for my delegation to work alongside you and your team in striving towards a more prosperous hemisphere. On behalf of the government and the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, we thank you for your service and dedication, and we wish you every success in your endeavors. Chair, I thank you.
Passo a palavra à delegação do Brasil.
Brazil is recognized. Thank you, Chair. I'm honored to take part in this solemn session as we bid farewell to the Secretary General Luis Almagro, who has been at the helm of our organization for a decade now. It is an enormous task to facilitate dialogue and understanding at the hemispheric level. At the outset, Chair, I'd like to take this opportunity to once again express our condolences to the people of Uruguay for the passing of former President Mujica, who we know that Secretary General Almagro worked for as foreign minister. The commitment of President Mujica to dialogue and seeking understanding between countries of the region, independently of their political leanings, will continue to inspire all of us. These lessons were never so necessary for our organization as they are today. Chair, the inter-American system is fundamental for finding lasting solutions to the shared challenges that we face. We know that Secretary General Almagro worked toward his objectives with determination and also idealism, seeking to do what he felt was best in order to sustain multilateralism and reflect hemispheric values. There is no doubt that even when we didn't all agree with the means and methods used, we always were able to come together toward our objectives as we sought out a more stable, prosperous, fair hemisphere. Brazil expresses its best wishes to Secretary General Almagro in his future endeavors. Thank you very much. The delegation of the Holy See is recognized. Thank you very much, Chair. My delegation of the Holy See would like to echo the statements made by the distinguished member states and permanent observers as we bid farewell to our beloved Secretary General Luis Almagro. Over 4 years have gone by since I came to present my credentials to you. And throughout this time, I've been able to appreciate firsthand your vast understanding of regional politics and global politics as well. The way that you have been able to deploy your great diplomatic tact, that you have been able to carry out such a prolific agenda in the Uruguayan use of the term. We have faced turbulent times and great challenges, such as during COVID and in other times as well. But as a great poet said, in stormy seas, we need a strong sail. And you were able to visit Pope Francis on many occasions over the last 10 years, and I'd like to share something very meaningful. Under his pontificate and his mandate as Secretary General, we have seen a stronger presence of the Holy See in this organization. And a final note of thanks for the consideration that you have given to the permanent observers. You have always given us time to meet with us and dialogue with us. I will always be grateful for your great closeness and working to ensure that this House of the Americas is also our house. I wish you the very best, and I wish you headwinds in your new adventures that lie ahead. We wish you the very most with great affection. Thank you very much, Chair.
Passo a palavra à delegação observadora da Espanha.
Spain is recognized. Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General. I am speaking on behalf of the Spanish mission to the Organization of American States during a very meaningful time. I'd like to echo these expressions of farewell to the Secretary General during this phase, which invites us to reflect and also to express our gratitude and think about the future. Mr. Secretary General, looking toward the past, your leadership at the helm of this organization, the oldest of the multilateral world, has gone through challenging, difficult times for the continent, where we have even had to lead us through a pandemic. I clearly remember that I was the first ambassador in presenting my credentials virtually during the difficult times of COVID. And the online ceremony was a show of your adaptability as well as the collective will to not let up our diplomatic work nor dialogue between states. Multilateralism is now suffering from great challenges, but despite everything, the pillars that sustain this Hall of the Americas, democracy, human rights, development, and security, continue to stand firm today as we continue to fight for a better future. From the Spanish mission, we have constantly appreciated your willingness to collaborate and the support that, as observers, we are able to modestly provide to member states, as well as to your willingness to dialogue with observers at this House of the Americas, the OAS. As a permanent observer state, Spain has been an active participant over the last 10 years with you at the helm of the OAS, and we have been able to meaningfully contribute through various initiatives, particularly through the Spanish Fund for the OAS. This is an instrument that in 2026 will celebrate 20 years of constant work on behalf of the people of the Americas and is a symbol of our ongoing support of this organization and the values it represents. It is also the symbol of an organization that looks not toward the past, but toward the future. Today, we are closing a chapter, Secretary General. It has been complex and intense. You are now part of a decade that has gone down in history in this organization. I can imagine the excitement that you will feel today as you close this personal and institutional chapter on behalf of multilateralism in the Americas. Mr. Almagro, we wish you most success in your future endeavors. The OAS is now opening a new chapter with new leadership, but of course with the ongoing responsibility of finding collective construction and support. Spain will continue along this path with hope in multilateralism. Thank you very much, Secretary General.
Passo a palavra à delegação observadora.
Italy is recognized. Thank you very much, Chair. Secretary General Luis Almagro, Assistant Secretary General Nestor Mendez, distinguished ambassadors, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to also echo, as the Italian delegation to the OAS, our tribute to Luis Almagro for his day-to-day work and his leadership over 2 mandates, during which the region as a whole has had to address multiple crises and challenges. Throughout these years, the Secretary General has acted with bravery and determination to safeguard and strengthen and promote the 4 pillars on which this organization is founded: human rights, democracy, comprehensive development, and security. Thanks to him, we have created new spaces for collaboration, supported by members and civil society. We have also built bridges with the private sector and other geographical regions. Italy is an observer nation, and we have been since 1962, and we'd like to take this opportunity and to share these spaces. And over many years, we have seen growing Italian financing for OAS programs. This is a show of how important relations with the Americas are to Italy. The OAS is a platform for carrying out technical programs that can include many different countries in these regions and build credibility of the organization itself. This credibility cannot be real without the credibility of the Secretary General and his commitment to democracy and the defense of human rights. Therefore, it has been a pleasure and an honor for me to present my credentials to you. Thank you very much for the openness and attention that you and your team have always provided to the observer countries, including Italy. And we would wish you the very best for the future. Best of luck, and as we say in Italian, arrivederci.
Passo a palavra.
France is recognized. Thank you, Chair. Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, ambassadors, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. France would like to join this tribute to Luis Almagro, who throughout his mandate as Secretary General has been an example of the justice of this organization and its commitment to development. His leadership at the OAS has been very important for protecting human rights, and beyond these words, it's a true commitment that he has shown, a deep commitment toward those who suffer under the scourge of injustice. His leadership has also played a role in supporting democracy in the Americas. As we heard this morning, exchanges on the electoral process in Guatemala in 2023 and supporting the organization in general and its General Secretariat in general have been fundamental to this. Dear Luis Almagro, you have given a voice to the most vulnerable and defended the fundamental principles of this organization. But it's impossible for us to ignore your tireless support for the permanent observers. When I presented my credentials last year, I received a warm, encouraging welcome, and thanks to you, as my observer colleagues have already stated, we have been able to recognize your contribution and heard our voices heard. You have built bridges between the OAS and observers to improve solidarity and cooperation, strengthening the integration and credibility of this organization on the international stage. I wish you the very best for your future endeavors, and we are certain that your commitment will continue to inspire future generations at the OAS or elsewhere. Thank you very much, dear Luis Almagro, and we'll see you soon.
Passo a palavra à delegação observadora da Ucrânia.
Ukraine is recognized.
Dear Chairman, dear Secretary General Almagro, dear Assistant Secretary Mendes, the ambassadors and everyone who's here, it's a bittersweet occasion to take the floor today, and I'd like to concur with all of the kind words that we heard today. On behalf of Ukraine, President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine, I proudly express sincere gratitude to Secretary General Almagro. At the helm of this organization, he showed qualities that true leaders possess, such as ability to tell the right from wrong, boldness to act, and to call things what they are, compassion to those who are in need, and most importantly, resolution not only to speak but to act. Whether that was a short tweet or a very long trip, Secretary General was never hesitant to be proactive. Dear Secretary General, your priorities in this organization were to put this organization in touch with people's needs and the new realities in the hemisphere, but also beyond the hemisphere. You helped to ensure the greater democracy, more rights, more security, and more development and prosperity for all of us. I want to use this floor to comment on your work and also tell you how successful you were. I thank you for taking robust steps and your devotion to democracy, which is very important in today's world. Thank you for supporting peace and democracy not only in this part of the world, but everywhere. Thank you for permanent dialogue with Ukraine. Thank you for taking time to talk to my leadership and taking part in many peace initiatives. Your attention to establishment of special tribunal for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, for joining Crimea platform, and also sub-forums on the safety and security of the Black Sea. A mere presence of the organization in this fora greatly matters for everyone back home in Ukraine, and not only in Ukraine. It mattered to civilians in Ukraine who are for more than 3 years under constant terror from Russian drones and missiles, but also to our brave defenders who not only defend our homes and our loved ones, but also democracy and freedom itself. Last year, for the first time in our history in Ukraine, we have adopted a strategy for the development of relations between Ukraine and the countries in Latin America and the Caribbean. It provides a comprehensive plan for our bilateral engagement, but also expanding what we can do with the OAS. And your leadership in bringing us closer to the region is a very important element of that action, which will bring Ukraine and this part of the world closer. Mr. Secretary General, with your leadership, the organization truly became the bridge between Ukraine and the Americas, and I know many countries feel that way. Your good deeds will always live in the hearts of Ukrainians for generations to come. I sincerely wish you and your wonderful family the best wishes and success in everything that you will do afterwards. We say thank you today, but we do not say goodbye, because I know that we will continue seeing each other and working together. Thank you.
Passo a palavra.
The observer delegation of the EU is recognized.
It's a hard act to follow, actually. Chair of the Permanent Council, Your Excellency Benoni Belay, Secretary General of the OAS Luis Almagro, Assistant Secretary General of the OAS Nestor Mendez, distinguished permanent representatives to the OAS, fellow permanent observers and guests. When I was pulling together these remarks, I too had a reference that I wanted to include to another 1990s movie, and thought to myself, maybe I shouldn't do that. But Ambassador Mendez, I think you opened the door there. There is a scene, I think, in Grosse Pointe Blank, I don't know if anybody recalls that movie from 1997, in which John Cusack is speaking to Jeremy Piven and it's been 10 years, man, 10 years. So today we gather not only to mark the end of a chapter in the history of the Organization of American States, but also to honor a decade of leadership and commitment to our shared principles. Secretary General Almagro assumed office in 2015 with a clear vision to uphold democracy, defend human rights, foster integral development, and ensure multidimensional security throughout the Americas. Over the past 10 years, he has led the OAS through moments of profound change and extraordinary challenge, and under his stewardship, reaffirmed the OAS's role as the hemisphere's foremost multilateral forum, a place where member states of this organization come together to defend the core values enshrined in the Inter-American Democratic Charter. A hallmark of his leadership has been the revitalization of the OAS as a platform for global engagement, including deepened collaboration with permanent observers who have consistently demonstrated solidarity with our partners in the Americas. Secretary General Almagro worked diligently to foster these partnerships in areas such as electoral observation, sustainable development, gender equality, humanitarian assistance, technological innovation, and institutional strengthening, just to name a few. These partnerships have expanded the reach and impact of the OAS, helping to link our regional priorities and global resources and perspectives. Whether through joint projects, technical cooperation, or policy dialogue, permanent observers have played a vital role in advancing our shared goals. And Secretary General Almagro, you were instrumental in ensuring that these relationships remain dynamic and respectful. He reminded us that multilateralism must not be constrained by geography, rather it must be elevated by shared purpose. In that spirit, You have supported cooperation not just among member states, but also between the Americas and the wider international community. Of course, leadership is not exercised in isolation. Secretary General Almagro has been supported by a dedicated team, by member states willing to engage, and by citizens across the Americas who believe in the promise of democracy and the power of regional cooperation. So, Secretary General Almagro, on behalf of the European Union, we thank you for your service and steadfast collaboration in advancing democracy, human rights, and regional security, important efforts that we will continue to support. We wish you every success in the road ahead and trust that wherever your journey takes you, the spirit of the Americas and that of the European Union will go with you. Thank you and farewell.
A seguir, tenho a honra
Now I'm honored and pleased to give the floor to the Secretary General of the OAS, Luis Almagro. I give you the floor. Dear friends, colleagues, you have all left a mark on my heart, to paraphrase a Uruguayan author. And as a Uruguayan, I would like to say that I love you very much. Here I was received by Jose Miguel Insulza and Albert Ramdin after my election as Secretary General. I've always greatly admired and valued the capacities and values of Jose Miguel Insulza, and I'm leaving the OAS with a new Secretary General-elect who also received me that day, Albert Ramdin, to whom certainly we wish the very best. When we love this organization and when we love the new Secretary General, we know that his success will be all of our success. And this is an organization that deserves the broadest support in its ongoing daily work that it shoulders as part of the hemispheric agenda. This is a political agenda reflected in the 4 pillars of the OAS, and fundamentally in the heart and soul of the people of the Americas. At this organization, we have contributed to law and laws. Year in and year out, this organization, the oldest in the world, which has been functioning in this beautiful building in the heart of Washington, D.C. since 1910, and has contributed in one way or another in sustaining values and principles that are fundamental to the entire world, and particularly to our region, that is peace, as we hear in every corner here in the Hall of the Americas. That peace that we desire today for Ukraine, the dignity of the people and the country as we desire in Israel and Palestine, for the people of those countries. The OAS certainly has commitments which are necessary, all of them based on mandates for democracy and human rights, development, security, and they involve obligations as well as statutory regulations. Sometimes we are unable to provide this from the General Secretariat, and this organization is always a space for dialogue for all, for each and every one of our ideas. And over the years, the decades, this organization, over the century and change of its existence, has found its greatness in diversity and plurality, in this cacophony of ideas, and each and every one of the ideas that ideologically identify with this organization. We have total openness to each and every one of these ideas, politically, socially, economically. And this is a space for dialogue that brings together voices, many voices, and the voice of those without a voice. Dialogue is the ability of each one to hear, listen, speak, dialogue, and share. Sometimes dialogue in our region has turned into a person who speaks while others listen, or maybe they listen and obey. In this region, every person needs to have his or her own space, his or her own way to amplify ideas. And that is what our organization is based on. Human rights are sustained in our ability to defend and protect those rights. What better than to have a hemisphere free of crimes against humanity, of a region free of systematic human rights violations? What's better than a region in which every right expands and opens with human spirit and technology to continually become stronger? I would like to recognize in all of you that capacity for dialogue, that capacity to exchange continuously. Problems and political issues should never be something we view as separate from ourselves. We have a commitment to each and every one of their solutions. Your words have touched me deeply. This is a very particular year. This is a year that's been very complex, personally, for me. My 3 great political references have passed away this year. Jimmy Carter, Pope Francis, and President Jose Mujica. Each one of those deaths has left an undeniable impact on our soul, as the impact of the work that they all carried out for the rights of those of us in the Americas. The rights of the poorest, the most discriminated against, the most unequal. Whether they are migrants, the LGBTQ population, women, rural inhabitants, indigenous populations, the Afro-descendant population. We owe so much to so many people in this region that everything we do needs to be for them. It needs to be the result of what we do for those people, the most unequal, the most vulnerable, those who need the most. I would like to recognize at the Permanent Council the OAS, the collective organization, everything that we do. The deepest friendships. You all have forced me, day in and day out, every hour of every day, to be better. In the challenges, criticism, support, in the work we carry out hand in hand in our debate, in our exchange of ideas. I thank each and every one of these challenges for increasingly making us all better, to do more, to not give up, to continue, no matter what, no matter the cost. And I would like to give thanks because without all of you, we've had a long path together. Many of you have totally changed. We have seen some veteran diplomats here, others who have just presented their credentials. We see many with whom we have been sharing challenges of regional integration for some time now. And the work we carry out with the deacon of you, who was the first person to head a mission here in implementation of Article 16 of the Democratic Charter in Haiti, Sir Ronald Sanders, a joint mission of the General Secretariat and the Permanent Council to achieve a democratic transition in Haiti, the reaffirmation of our institution in a process that opened the door to solutions at that time. And that joint work, those challenges, that freedom of each and every one to do the best they can, they gave their very best to the organization. They gave their best efforts, their best tools to strengthen us in our daily work. I am obviously very touched by the memory of Nestor Mendez at some of my monologues. Sometimes there are things that show no fear. Literature is literature, art is art, and it's a way to open the door to our spirit. And certainly we're also enriched by soccer. Sometimes I tell my team on the side of a speech I say it's 4-2, 2-3, and someone might think that it's a secret code. No, it's just a strategy for precaution. In soccer, you have 4 defenders. Sometimes I say Ferruccio Accarelli, who was one of the greatest players. Soccer has always been a reference for the people of the Americas. It has enriched our people, and we have seen players from the Americas dominating the sport worldwide. And this is what I'd like to see in the 4 pillars of the organization, what we'd like to see in each and every one of you at this organization. Our political skills, just like our soccer skills, should lead us as we seek out solutions in our work together, in our teamwork, in our work hand in hand with the national spirit and also the regional spirit, and what we achieve as we triumph in our region. That integrating spirit, may it always prevail. Certainly, I would also like to thank each of the executive secretaries with whom we have been working over these years. Thank you very much for that institutional strengthening at this organization. Thank you for being channels for dialogue. This is a very Montessori sort of method when we are responsible for achieving the very best for the organization. We have the best programs, the best integration with social, economic, political dynamics of the Americas. Everyone always putting forth their very best in order to achieve the most freedom and responsibility for this organization. Also, thank you to my team, all of the advisors as well, who are sitting in the back. Francesca, who revitalized a team that perhaps had gotten too mature. She gave us a new, fresh air of youth and initiatives. But Maria Rosa and Constanza, who managed my life throughout this time. Rodolfo Camarosano, with whom we have been working in politics for 1,000 years now, and who accepted this job with such humility. Hector Samis, who gave his academic contributions during such important moments for us. Gustavo Sinoso, who has certainly been a permanent reference in every precept, every step we take in managing this organization, both inside and out. And Gonzalo Conque, with whom for 15 years now we have sat down at least once a day to discuss the main issues that we have at hand. Even when he wasn't here, or even when he was at the UN for a while, we continued working together year in and year out, month to month, day to day. He was such a necessary benchmark for my work, and I said, he forces me to be diplomatic. Maybe I would be a little more frank, and Gonzalo is a natural diplomat in his work, his management. They have been so crucial in this organization, both inside and out. Leonardo and Benjamin, who are sitting over there. They were sitting over there 10 years ago when I joined the organization. When they were sitting there 10 years ago, their feet didn't reach the floor yet. They have grown, and there they are. They have paid the price of the public dimension of my life. They have paid it with both my time and theirs. They have paid it sometimes with difficulty. Sometimes people went to the house and threatened them. But here they are, unbreakable, and truly they have always been. We think about being the world for the future. We think about where they need to be in that time. Nestor Mendez and his team. I don't have any words for Nestor Mendez. Nestor is everything. He's a friend, an example, a confidant. He comes with a solution to every problem. His team has always been there, crossing their T's, dotting their I's. But he has an extraordinary human dimension. He has a political vision that he always has to be going. He's always going, working with all of us. Nestor, I suppose that the organization is aware of how much it owes you. I certainly know everything that I owe you, and everything that the organization owes you as well. Thank you, Nestor.
Luisa Fernanda Marin.
Luisa Fernanda Marin. Two and a half years now, with all of the complexities that entails. I think it's the only words for this are spiritual sustenance, social vision, political vision. That person you can really share every instant with. When you've got to sit down and digest everything that's happened throughout the day. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for your understanding. When the bombs dropped, as well as when the flowers bloomed in the springtime, thank you for all of it. And then, my country. There's a Borges poem that goes, they say that Ulysses cried when he found his Ithaca. And see that it is an Ithaca of endless green. Some time ago, I was in Uruguay. I was able to be there around the end of February, beginning of March. And I cried tears of joy when I saw my Uruguay covered in green. And it birthed so much. It allowed for someone from a town with just barely 300 inhabitants to come here and work with all of you at this, the oldest international organization, and give more. I have no words for everything my country has given me. Nothing. I went to public school, public university. I never paid a cent for any of it. I just had to show up to class, take notes, take tests. And it gave me things that I could never replace. And I hope that it will continue to strengthen. Something that President Mujica used to say, no one is better than anyone. And that should be the spirit of all those present here today. Thank you for every chapter we've been through. A crucial moment was made mention of here, COVID-19. Our organization at this headquarters managed to survive the sickness. We adopted a different perspective. No one at our headquarters lost their life because of COVID-19. We all kept our spirits, our souls, our intellect, our heads in the game. That is the human factor that I mentioned. When we worked hand in hand, Nestor and I, some people sought refuge in prayer or meditation. Others sought to strengthen their professional capacities. We did everything to bring that to them. It's the ability to work together that I hope will remain a constant for all peoples of the Americas. We heard the words of Gustavo Cerati, and again, thank you endlessly.
desejo reiterar
I want to reiterate on behalf of this Permanent Council our deepest thanks to the Secretary General for his leadership and his commitment to the values of the OAS. We wish him best success in his future endeavors. Thank you so much. The session today is adjourned.